This podcast is made possible by you, the supporters of WPLN and WNXP, Nashville Public Radio.
This is the Nashvillager Podcast. It's March 31st, 2025. On this day in 1736, America's oldest public hospital was founded. Bellevue Hospital in New York City began as an almshouse with just 6 beds. And all these years later, it continues to provide care to people regardless of their ability to pay. I'm Nina Cardona, and this is your daily digest of what's happening around Middle Tennessee with historical context from Nashville Public Radio, WPLN News. Nashville opened our own public hospital in 1890. At the time, it was just outside of the city center. These days, we call that downtown neighborhood Rolling Mill Hill, and the old hospital building is still there. It's been converted to condos now. Ever since the late 90s, Nashville General has been on the campus of Mack Medical College in North Nashville. It's the teaching hospital for that school, and it's a facility that can teach us a lot about some of the most essential needs that many Nashvillians have. It's the place you go when you don't have insurance. It's the place you go when you don't have money. We call facilities like that safety net hospitals because they quite literally offer medical lifelines to people with nowhere else to turn. And as WPLN health reporter Catherine Sweeney has pointed out, that's a very expensive service to provide. Nashville General has been in our newscasts lately because the CEO resigned before he could be let go. The latest wrinkle is that the hospital is offering Joseph Webb $1 million severance package on the condition that he'd agree not to sue them. But Webb's situation is just the personification of the underlying tensions that have been boiling for years. There are essentially 3 entities involved in running Nashville General: the hospital's own administration, Meharry, and the city government. They disagree over money, over contracts, over where the hospital should even be. One thing they have agreed is that the current building isn't really working for them anymore. Back in 2022, Meharry and the city announced an agreement to move the hospital somewhere else. But almost 3 years later, they still have not identified that somewhere. And the current lease is set to expire in 2027. Another agreement between the city and Meharry has long since expired. The contract for the medical college to treat indigent patients ran out in 2023. They're still providing those services. And the parties say they're continuing to work on a new contract. But it gets to a point where operating without a formal agreement in place is just asking for trouble. There are potential legal ramifications. And they aren't good. Meharry's leaders have expressed concern with some really fundamental issues at Nashville General, like the patient load or use of physicians that aren't part of the teaching mission. It's going to take a lot more work to iron out those problems, but they must be solved. Every city needs a hospital that tries to live up to the way that Nashville General describes itself on its website: a steadfast beacon of care and compassion. At any given time, there will always be people facing injury and sickness when they're already at rock bottom. And those people need a place to go. They need a chance to heal. They need skilled care. And they need to not walk out the door bankrupt from their treatment. In just a few minutes, we hear from local artist Annie DiRusso, our sister music Discovery Station's Nashville Artist of the Month for March. That's coming up after the newscast.
You're a partner in the news with WPLN. Every day, WPLN News sets out to bring you a world full of information, insights, and ideas. But everything you get from WPLN News simply wouldn't exist without our partners. It all depends on listener support. Listener support is WPLN's major source of funding. Become a partner in making more news with your contribution today. Join as a monthly sustaining member or with a one-time gift at WPLN.org.
Here's the latest from WPLN News. At least one brief tornado emerged in the storms that hit Middle Tennessee last night. According to the National Weather Service, a twister removed the roof from a house in McEwen. Many communities are waking to find downed trees. But for the most part, power has been restored. The largest outage in the state right now is in Murray County, where more than 500 customers are without electricity. Vanderbilt University Medical Center is making $250 million in budget cuts for the coming year. CEO Jeff Balzer informed his staff about the reductions in a video. The transcript says the cuts are happening because of actions being taken in D.C., but does not dive into specifics. WPLN health reporter Catherine Sweeney tells us more.
It says hospital administrators are trying to spare clinical services from the cuts. Support services, like human resources and IT, are likely to see reductions. And research projects are likely to take a hit unless they're fully funded with outside resources, like donations and grants. That being said, the Trump administration is working to slash that federal research grant funding. It has also fired tens of thousands of workers in the federal health agencies that oversee grant funding and public health programs.
The Vanderbilt transcript mentions the broad budget cuts anticipated this year under a Republican Congress. Those are expected to have severe impacts on health coverage programs like TennCare. The Nashville Area Chamber of Commerce is boasting about the success of its program that provides high school students with practical experience. Community leaders gathered Friday to hear details of the program when the chamber issued its 2024 education report. WPLN's Camelia Burris reports.
Metro schools partner with business leaders to connect classroom learning with real-world opportunities. Metro schools revamped high school education due to concern about low graduation rates. The report stated that graduation rates have increased and suspension rates have gone down. School Board Chair Frida Player says everyone should care about education, even if they don't have any school-aged kids.
And it's really important that it takes everyone in the community, whether you have children or not, to participate in the education of our children, because they're going to be your neighbors, they're going to be working for you, anywhere from a plumber to electrician to the cashier at the grocery store, but even more importantly, the business leaders of tomorrow for Nashville.
The report also recommends that Tennessee expand the number of career and technical education teachers. Camelia Burris, WPLN News.
High school, college, or a job, marriage, and then children. According to a bill in the Tennessee legislature, those things in that order are the keys to a successful life. The proposed bill would require that public schools teach this concept. It's similar to bills in other states that are favored by national conservative advocacy groups like the Heritage Foundation. Republican lawmakers who support the bill say research backs up the idea that marriage before kids helps people escape poverty. But Democratic State Senator London Lamar, a single mother herself, said, quote, "I'm living proof that this bill has no merit." The bill passed the state Senate but is still working its way through the House. This is the last week for Nashvillians to apply for tax relief programs. These programs help some senior, veteran, or disabled homeowners lower or freeze their property tax at its current level. Homeowners must make below a certain income limit to qualify. Individuals have until April 5th to apply or recertify for the program. More information is available at nashville.gov/trustee. Both the men's and women's basketball teams at the University of Tennessee are down for the count following the latest rounds of the NCAA tournament. The men fell to Houston 69-50 yesterday after missing 19 of their first 22 shots. The men's team has made 27 appearances in the tournament's history without ever making the Final Four. They fell in last year's tournament in the same round, the Elite Eight. Meanwhile, the storied women's team lost to Texas in the Sweet 16 round Saturday by a smaller 8-point margin. The Final Four matchups of March Madness begin Friday. The Nashville Sounds celebrated minor league baseball's opening day on Friday with a 7-1 victory against the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimps.
It's on the way. And Durbin, it's a drive out to left field. Well struck. Hernandez back on the track, looking up. Gone! Caleb Durbin homers to left.
The rest of the weekend wasn't quite so bright for the Sounds. The visiting Jumbo Shrimps won the next 2 games. This week, the Sounds hit the road for the first time this season for a 6-game series against the Gwinnett Stripers in Georgia. You'll find more news anytime at WPLN.org. Nashville artist Annie DiRusso is a keen observer of how the city's music scene has changed over the years. She's watched the indie scene grow from a boys' club into a space where many female artists are celebrated and welcomed. DiRusso is WNXP's Nashville Artist of the Month, and she spoke with WNXP's Celia Gregory about her new album, Super Pedestrian, Going Electric, and much more.
Legs on the dashboard, legs in my sheets. Everybody wants you, I think you want me.
I fancy Annie like an elite surfer riding the tsunami wave of younger female artists reverent of the 1990s. Alternative rock music that prioritizes hooks, but also volume and has a lot to say. But when she came to Belmont University, she said it was still sort of a boys' club in terms of people making rock music and gigging out.
And even within Belmont, I remember when I first got to Belmont, like I really couldn't get on like a show unless it was girls only. And now it actually feels like much the opposite, which is kind of the best thing ever. Like anytime I feel like a lineup's announced, it's almost always just girls. Okay, that rocks.
So the indie music scene has changed in the several years Annie's called Nashville home. She came from New York and stayed because of the creative community she's forged. Even as a college student, she self-released songs that got traction on streaming platforms and landed her opening spots on tour with some of her heroes turned peers, like Samia and Haim. But the time from first singles through this first full-length release has marked a big leap in confidence for the artist, as a songwriter and certainly as a guitarist. Her humble roots as a preteen are pretty relatable, strumming chords on an acoustic guitar, starting, of course, covering the artist she loves.
I learned very, very minimal guitar, like probably like 6 chords. I was addicted to my capo. For all of like probably the ages of, 12 to 18, I got better at guitar, but I wasn't really pushing myself to learn scales or anything. And then when I got to Nashville, I had gotten electric guitar and I got a distortion pedal. I like got into bar chords, which makes playing the electric guitar like make a lot more sense.
I'm doing fine, only losing my mind every once in a while. And it's been cool.
Of course, it's not just the what Annie DiRusso picked up, going electric, that changed her sound and advanced her skill. Once she was performing out regularly, it was the whom.
And then touring with a band who very luckily are the most beautiful people in the world. And none of them, even though they're all these guys who are like incredibly proficient at their instruments, none of them ever talked down to me. Like I think there were times at Belmont where people absolutely did, while I was forming my band. But the people that I ended up touring with were only ever supportive. And I think that made me a much better instrumentalist. Just like playing with amazing guitarist and drummer and bassist made me so much better and inspired to be a lot better at my instrument. And they were only being like encouraging me, like, well, what if you tried this pedal? And when I revealed to them I couldn't play a scale when we were on that long tour, they weren't like, what? You never learned a scale? Like, how do you even know whatever? They were like, oh, wait, it's pretty easy actually. And just like taught me.
What a revelation, we agreed a little cheekily, to find encouragement and not condescension. She said she found the same sort of safe space and fertile ground for growth once she recorded Super Pedestrian in Asheville at Drop of Sun Studios with producer Caleb Wright.
So he was the first producer I got on the phone with that said, so what's the record about? And I was like, oh, it is about something, isn't it, Caleb? And his whole purpose the whole time was really serving the storyline of the record. Like it really wasn't music focused at all in a way that I think was kind of the most beautiful possible situation for me to create this record in.
It can be a rarity, she indicated, to feel so free to explore.
It feels like there's this bar of entry, but the bar of entry is just like having the confidence to walk into a studio and like tinker around with things. Because a lot of times growing up, honestly, until recently, I would like feel very kind of like, okay, well, you know how to do that. Like, I don't really know how to do that. But then I realized there's kind of a theme on the record about autonomy as well in terms of playing music, that they know exactly as much as I know, or they did when they first did it.
Backing up a little bit, before she actually laid down these tracks, she was writing the songs that appear on Super Pedestrian in a period post-tour that she dubbed Party July. It was a blitzy few weeks in the summer of 2023 where she really just wanted to maximize time with friends, but creatively, things just poured out of her. She was also messing around with atypical tunings on her guitar.
It immediately opened up a whole new world for me. It made me feel so inspired musically and led me to a whole new group of melodies, which I think was so fun. I wrote like so many songs over the same chords and then had to like, pick one. But yeah, I feel like most of the record is actually in alternate tunings. I just felt very supported to explore that. I don't think that every woman with the guitar gets that experience.
I wanna give you my all when you're back in town. When you're back,
Annie DiRusso is making a righteous noise on Super Pedestrian, her debut full length, and she's in good company. Nashville seems chock-a-block lately, with women rocking out and growing their fan bases because of it. Like it or not, and Annie DiRusso quite likes it, this is no longer the boys' club of yesteryear. Celia Gregory, Nashville Public Radio.
Well, I keep sending you books I know you'll never read. Guess it's all I can give, that's not all of me. Wrote some.
We do this roundup of Nashville news every weekday. Please consider subscribing on your favorite podcasting app. Thanks so much to all of you who've left 5 stars, thumbs up, or a review in your app of choice. And thank you to everyone who is a contributing member of WPLN, because everything at WPLN News is listener supported. This is the Spring Fund Drive, and you can make a donation right now at WPLN.org. And that's it for today. Thanks so much for listening. Let's make this day a good one, and we'll catch back up tomorrow.